Hello students, devices which we will try to understand in this unit are generally called as breakdown devices. They are nothing but solid state devices whose working depends on the phenomena of avalanche breakdown. You know already what avalanche breakdown means. Avalanche breakdown happens when PN junction diode connected in reverse bias mode. As you keep on increasing the reverse bias voltage, the number of free electrons will keep on increasing, and at a certain voltage there will be large amount of free electrons available which will take part in the process of conduction. So that voltage at which current starts flowing in a reverse bias PN junction diode is called as avalanche breakdown voltage. Uh, all these devices which we will try to understand in this unit are referred by their generic name. Okay, they are called as, generally they are called as thyristor, and there are examples. For example, we had FET, field effect transistor, and there are two types of FET, JFET and MOSFET. Similarly, we have thyristor, and there are number of different types of thyristor which we will try to understand in this unit. Okay, so the devices which we will try to understand in this unit are uni-junction transistor, specified as UJT, silicon controlled rectifier, that is SCR, and okay, so the first one which we will try to understand is uni-junction transistor. Okay, so UJT is another solid state 3-terminal device that can be used in gate pulse, timing circuit and trigger generator application to switch and control thyristors and triac for AC power control application. In general, this statement specifies that UJT, that is uni-junction transistors, can be used to switch on or off high AC electrical power circuit. Okay, the symbolic representation and the construction of uni-junction transistor is as shown in the figure. Okay, so basically uni-junction transistor is a 3-terminal silicon diode. As its name indicates, it has only one PN junction. It differs from an ordinary diode that it has 3 leads. A normal PN junction diode will have, of course, one junction but 2 terminals, anode and cathode. But in case of UJT, we have 3 terminals, one emitter and 2 base 1 and base 2. And it also differs from field effect transistor. Field effect transistor can amplify the signals. Okay, can amplify the signals, but uni-junction transistor cannot amplify. They can only be used as a switch. However, the uni-junction transistor has an ability to control a large AC power with a small signal. It also exhibits a negative resistance characteristics which makes it useful as an oscillator. What exactly I mean by negative resistance characteristics, we will try to we will understand that when we go for the characteristics of uni-junction transistor. Okay, UJT have unidirectional conductivity. That means current conduction is only in one direction, and negative impedance characteristics, that is what I have told you. Negative impedance, that means, see, in Ohm's law, V is equal to IR, right? So when the voltage increases, the current increases because they are directly proportional. But if the resistance is negative, the current becomes negative, and if the current becomes negative, we can say that as the voltage increases, the current decreases. That phenomena is called as negative impedance characteristics. Okay, if you see the equivalent circuit of UJT, it's like a variable voltage divider during the breakdown, right? When a sufficient voltage is applied, it will act as a variable voltage divider. Okay, so if we go in depth for the construction of the UJT, it consists of a lightly doped silicon bar with a heavily doped p-type material. Okay, for producing a single PN junction as shown in the figure. There are 3 terminals, one emitter and to base 1 and base 2, okay, at the top and the bottom of the silicon bar. The emitter leg is drawn at an angle to the vertical and arrow points in the direction of conventional current when UJT is in the conducting state. Okay. Second thing which we have to understand is called as inter-base resistance, the resistance between base 1 and base 2, which will be further specified as RBB. It is the resistance between base 2 and base 1, that is, it is the total resistance of the silicon bar from one end to another end with emitter terminal open. That means no potential is applied to the emitter terminal. So from the equivalent circuit, what we can see is that RBB, that is the total interbase resistance, will be given by RB2, that is resistance of base 2 with respect to emitter, and resistance, that is RB1, that is resistance of base 1 with the emitter. Okay. It should be noted that the point A is such that RB1 is greater than RB2. What you can see is why I'm saying that is because this PN junction is formed close to base 2 as compared to base 1. So this resistance between base 1 and emitter will be large as compared to the resistance between base 2 and emitter. Okay. Next, you can see the equivalent circuit of uni-junction transistor. We have one PN junction diode and two resistance, which is between base 2 and emitter and base 1 and emitter, and VBB is the potential which we are going to apply between base 1 and base 2. Okay, and in the previous section we have understood that the total resistance between the base 1 and base 2 is RB1 plus RB2, which will be the total internal impedance of uni-junction transistor. Okay. As the physical position of the PN junction is closer to terminal B2, I have already explained. This PN junction which is formed is nearer to B2 as compared to B1. So the resistive value of RB2 will be less than RB1. These two series resistance produces a voltage divider. Okay, produces a voltage divider network between the two base terminal of uni-junction transistor. Since this channel stretches from B2 to B1, this I'm talking about this channel. Okay, the entire semiconductor, your semiconductor device. When a voltage is applied across the device, what is the voltage which we are going to apply? VBB, between the base 1 and base 2. The potential at any point along the channel will be proportional to its position between terminal B1 and B2. Of course, when the potential is applied between B1 and B2, some voltage will be dropped across this resistance and some voltage will be dropped across this resistance, and the voltage drop will depend upon how the PN junction is formed, nearer to B2 or nearer to B1. Okay. The level of voltage gradient therefore depends upon, of course, the supply voltage. The total supply voltage will be divided into voltage drop across RB1 and voltage drop across RB2. The voltage drop across RB1 will be called as VRB1 and voltage drop across RB2 will be called as VRB2, and the total supply voltage will be VBB. Okay. Now let us try to understand uni-junction transistor operation. When a UJT is connected in the circuit, just refer to this diagram, and as I said, potential between B1 and B2 is the total potential VBB. When used in the circuit, terminal B1, that is B1 is connected to ground, and of course if B1 is connected to ground, that means B2 will be connected to positive potential, and the emitter serves as the input to the device. This is the emitter where we have a PN junction diode. So as soon as a VBB potential is applied, there will be a potential drop across RB1 and there will be a potential drop across RB2. Okay, so suppose a voltage VBB is applied across the UJT between B2 and B1 so that B1 is positively biased relative to B1 with zero emitter input voltage. That means no potential is applied to emitter. The voltage drop across RB1 of the resistive voltage divider can be calculated as, that means the voltage drop across RB1 will be calculated by this formula, that is RB1, the resistance between emitter and base 1, upon resistance between emitter and base 1 plus resistance between emitter and base 2 multiplied by the total potential VBB which has been applied. So that will give you the voltage drop across RB1, and unless and until emitter potential is applied, the PN junction will not, this PN junction will be in reverse bias condition, and if the PN junction is in reverse bias condition, no current will flow through the device. That means the device will be in off state. So now to switch the device from off states to on state, what we have to do is we have to give emitter potential such that it overcomes the barrier potential. And what is the barrier potential? It is the voltage drop between RB1. Okay, the voltage drop across RB1 which is given by VRB1. Okay, RB1 upon RB1 plus RB2 is called as eta, which is the intrinsic standoff ratio. So VRB1 is equal to eta multiplied by VBB. Okay, so if that voltage across emitter, if the voltage across emitter exceeds that potential, exceeds the potential across this RB1, then the device will be switched on. Okay, so it is obvious that emitter junction will not become forward bias unless its applied voltage VE exceeds that of the voltage across RB1. This value of VE is called peak point voltage and it is specified as VP. And when VE is equal to VP, that means if it reaches the peak point, what happens? The circuit will be switched on. Okay, the current starts flowing through RB1 to ground. As I said, RB1 will be base 1 will be connected to ground. The UJT is then said to have turned on, and in general term we say that we have fired the unijunction transistor, switched on the unijunction transistor. Due to the flow of emitter current through RB1, number of charge carrier in RB1 is increased. Of course, है ना, करंट अगर उसमें से फ्लो हो रहा है तो वो रेजिस्टेंस हम बोलेंगे कि वो कम हो रहा है, राइट? सो as I said, due to the flow of, that is emitter current, number of charge carrier in RB1 is increased, which reduces its resistance. और अगर RB1 का resistance decrease हुआ, मतलब eta जो है, which is the intrinsic standoff ratio, will also decrease. Hence, we find that as VE, that means potential applied across emitter increases, current through the transistor IE increases, which decreases the RB1, that is resistance between emitter and base 1, which decreases the intrinsic standoff ratio, and this is a regenerative action. So because of this action, what will happen is the resistance across RB1 will keep on decreasing, and therefore the eta, that is intrinsic standoff ratio, will decrease. Okay, which causes further increase in IE. Since VE decreases when IE increases, we say the UJT possesses negative resistance. This is the negative resistance property. That means when voltage is decreasing, current is increasing. Of course, according to Ohm's law, V is equal to IR. Voltage increase, current should increase. But when voltage is decreasing, current is increasing in unijunction transistor. Therefore, we say that it is it has a negative resistance property. it is seen that only terminal E and B1 is active terminal, while B2 is given is used to bias the terminals externally. It means only for applying external voltage across the UJT. Generally, UJT is triggered into conduction by applying a suitable positive pulse at its emitter. It can be brought back to off state by applying a negative pulse. Okay. For a unijunction transistor, the resistive ratio of RB1 to RBB, that is the total resistance between base 1 and base 2, is called the intrinsic standoff ratio, which I have already specified. Eta is RB1 upon RB1 plus RB2, and typical standard value of eta ranges from 0.5 to 0.8 for most common UJT. Okay, so basically what we are trying to understand is what is the voltage drop across RB1. It will be eta multiplied by VBB, the total potential which has been applied. Okay, so 0.5, say the potential applied is 5 volt. Okay, total potential applied here is 5 volts. So and eta value is say 0.5. So what is the potential across RB1? Potential across RB1 will be 0.5 multiplied by VBB, the total potential. So 0.5 multiplied by 5 will be 2.5. So this is the the potential drop across RB1 will be 2.5. So if the voltage across emitter is less than that potential, the device, the UJT, will be in off state. And if the potential exceeds, the voltage across emitter exceeds the the potential across RB1, the UJT will be fired, or it will be turned on, or you can say the current will be flowing through unijunction device, unijunction transistor. So what we have learnt in the previous section is a small positive input voltage less than the voltage drop across RB1 is now applied to the emitter input terminal. See, less than the potential drop across RB1. The diode PN junction of course will be in reverse bias condition, thus offering a very high impedance, and therefore the device does not conduct. So we say the UJT is switched off and there will be no current, zero current flows in the UJT. However, when the emitter input voltage is increased, how much it has to increase? It has to go beyond the voltage drop across RB1. So if the emitter input voltage is increased and becomes greater than VRB1, or we can say eta into VBB plus 0.7 volt. Of course, I have mentioned eta into VBB plus 0.7 is the voltage drop across the PN junction diode. Okay, so when the voltage across emitter becomes greater than VRB1, the PN junction becomes forward bias and the unijunction transistor begins to conduct. Okay, the result is that the emitter current IE now flows from the emitter into base region, and we say that the unijunction transistor is in on state, or it has been fired on. Okay, now the last part of unijunction transistor, where we will try to understand the characteristic curve of unijunction transistor. Here the graph has been drawn between VE, that is emitter current, to the emitter voltage VE to emitter current IE for a given value of VBB, that is the voltage applied between base 1 and base 2. Okay, so the figure shows the static emitter characteristic, which is a curve drawn between VE, that is emitter voltage, and IE, emitter current, of a UJT at a given inter-base voltage VBB. From the figure, it is noted that for emitter potential to the left of peak point, the emitter current IE, this is the peak point, right? To the left of peak point, the emitter current IE never exceeds IEO. That means the potential when no emitter voltage is applied. The current IEO corresponds very closely to the reverse leakage current, that is ICO. As I told you, if the voltage across emitter does not exceed the voltage across RB1, the PN junction will be in reverse bias condition, and in reverse bias condition only leakage current flows, which will be specified as IEO. Okay, so the current IEO corresponds very closely to the reverse leakage current ICO of the conventional BJT. This region, as shown in the figure, is called as cut-off region. Okay, it is called as cut-off region. And once conduction is established, that means VE is equal to V peak. Okay, this potential is reached. What happens? The emitter potential VE starts decreasing with the increasing in emitter current. I told you that there will be a regenerative action, right? When the UJT will be in on state, okay, current will flow through the RB1, therefore the resistance across RB1 will decrease, therefore eta will decrease and IE will increase. Increase in IE will decrease VE. Okay, so that is what has been shown. This is called as the valley. Here the VE value is decreasing as the current increases. Okay, so current increasing in VE value decreases. This region of a unijunction transistor is called as negative resistance, and this will be helpful when we design an oscillator circuit. Okay, so so now what happens is there will be a point which will where the voltage that is VE will keep on decreasing, and it reaches a minimum value. It reaches a minimum value which is called as VV, valley voltage. So therefore this device therefore has a negative resistance region which is stable enough to be used with a greater deal of reliability in the area of applications such as oscillators. Eventually the valley point reach, that is VV, valley point reaches, and any further increase in emitter current places the device in saturation region as shown in the figure. Three other important parameters of UJT are IP, that is peak to peak point emitter current, then valley point voltage VV, and valley point current IV. So peak point emitter current IP, it is the emitter current at the peak point. Emitter current, this is the point, right? Emitter current at the peak point. It represents the minimum current that is required to trigger the device, right? So minimum amount of current which will be required to reach this point, peak point, will be called as peak point emitter current. Okay, it is inversely proportional to the interbase voltage VBB, of course. Valley point voltage VV, the valley point voltage is the emitter voltage at the valley point, that is the minimum value of emitter voltage before it goes into saturation. The valley voltage increases with the increase in interbase voltage VBB, that is the total supply voltage between base 1 and base 2. And valley point current IV, the valley point current is the emitter current at the valley point. This is the current. It increases with the increase in interbase voltage VBB. This is the total valley current which will be flowing. Okay, so this is all about unijunction transistor. I hope you have understood. If you have any problem related to that, you can ask me after the class. Thank you. Hello students, the next circuit which we will try to understand is SCR, Silicon Controlled Rectifier. It is one of the prominent member of the thyristor family. It is a 4-layer or PNPN device. Basically, it is a rectifier with a control element. In fact, it consists of 3 diodes. You can see in the figure there are 3 diodes. This is 1, 2 and 3 PN junctions. 3 PN junctions you can see in the diagram. So it has a 3 diodes connected back to back with a gate connection. It is widely used as a switching device in power control applications. As I said, high AC power circuits which has to be switched on or off has to be done by a device, and that device will be SCR. It can control loads by switching current off and on up to many thousands times per second. It can switch on or variable length of time, thereby delivering selected amount of power to the load. Hence, it possesses the advantage of a rheostat and a switch with one of their advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so the silicon control rectifier is a power electronic device. It can convert alternating current into direct current, at the same time can control the amount of power fed to the load. Okay, पावर जितना हम लोग एक इनपुट सिग्नल में जो पावर आएगा, एसी पावर जो रहेगा, वो कितना आउटपुट में लोड करना है वो भी स्पेसिफाई करेगा. मतलब वो रेक्टिफाई तो करता ही है. व्हाट इज रेक्टिफायर? इफ यू रिमेंबर, रेक्टिफायर इज अ सर्किट व्हिच कन्वर्ट्स AC into DC. So that is what SCR does. At the same time, कितना पावर वो आउटपुट में ट्रांसफर करेगा, that is also decided by the rectifier. So it is a combination of it has a combination of features of a rectifier and transistor. Okay. So what is a silicon controlled rectifier? A silicon controlled rectifier, as I have told you before, is a four layer solid state device that controls current flow. SCR has three terminals: anode, gate and cathode. The terminals which has been specified, as I said, it will be anode, cathode and gate terminal. Okay, and the two main uses of SCR is it is used as a switch and it can be used as an amplifier. Okay, so both switching and amplification can be done by silicon controlled rectifier. Now, basic structure of your SCR. Okay, the SCR consists of a four-layer PNPN structure. This is what you can see over here. Okay, PNPN structure, with outer layer are referred as anode, and the other which is of course p-type, and the other layer will be the end region, which will be called as cathode. The control terminal of the SCR is named as gate, and it is connected to the p-type layer located next to the cathode. The three junctions are normally denoted as J1, J2 and J3. Okay, so this is the basic construction of your SCR. This SCR can be again seen as splitted into two transistors, one PNP and the other NPN, as shown in this diagram. Okay, so one is PNP and the other one is NPN. So when we explain the construction, we say that it is a 3-junction, 3-terminal, 4-layer transistor, the layer being alternately of p-type and n-type silicon. The 3 junctions are marked as J1, J2 and J3, whereas the 3 terminals are anode, cathode and gate, which is connected to anode, cathode, and the third terminal with gate, which is connected to the inner p-type layer, which is nearer to the cathode. The function of the gate terminal is to control the potential which will switch on the SCR. Okay, so the basic schematic diagram is already specified in the diagram. The basic operation of SCR can be viewed as two transistor analogy. Of course, for that we have to see this figure. Okay, the SCR is split into 3-layer transistor structure as shown in the figure. As seen, transistor 1, the first transistor, is a PNP transistor, whereas second transistor is an NPN transistor, interconnected together. It will also be noted that collector current of the first transistor is the base current for the second, and collector current of the second transistor is the base current of the third. Okay, so even a small current at the anode to cathode, what happens is there will be small emitter current which will flow. Emitter current is equal to collector current, which will be equal to base current. The base current will amplify the signal, then it goes to the collector of the second transistor, then from collector it goes to the base of the second, and due to regenerative action the SCR will be triggered or fired immediately. Okay, so this is the basic structure of SCR and two transistor analogy. The next is SCR operation, or we can say how we will try to understand how SCR works. Okay, so whenever an external load has to be connected, it has to be connected in series with the anode. The anode is always kept at a higher potential than the cathode. That means whenever an SCR is connected and a potential is connected between anode and cathode, anode should be connected to positive and cathode should be connected to negative. So when we study the basic operation of SCR or the working of SCR, we go for two different conditions. The first one is when gate terminal is open. As I said, the gate terminal, the potential at the gate terminal will fire or trigger the SCR. So we will study the operation of SCR in two cases: when gate is open and when gate is positive with respect to cathode. So let us try to understand how the transistor circuit will work, SCR circuit will work. The first case is when gate is open or there is no voltage to the gate. In that case, it is shown in the figure. This is the figure when gate is open and potential is applied. Potential is applied between anode and cathode. So we can see that junction J2 is reversed bias, while junction J1 and J3 are forward biased. Okay. So as the junction gate terminal is reverse biased, no current will flow through the device, and we say SCR is cut off. Because when Ig is equal to 0, that means Ib1, that is base current, is equal to 0 for the first transistor. Therefore SCR remains in off condition. But in this case also SCR can be turned on when gate is open. That will happen when a high value of anode to cathode voltage will be applied. This voltage is called as forward breakover voltage. This is very important. That means without any gate voltage also we can switch on the SCR by applying a high voltage between the anode and the cathode. Okay, and this is the potential which we are going to apply. And a high potential at this place will switch on the SCR. Okay. In the second case, when gate is positive with respect to the cathode, we can see J3. This is as shown in the figure which has been drawn. Okay. You can see that gate is connected to positive with respect to the cathode. Okay, so J3 is forward bias and J2 is reverse bias. Electrons from N type will start moving into moving across J3 towards the left. Similarly, holes from P type material will move towards the right. Eventually the electrons that moved across J3 are now attracted across J2. This initiates the gate current and the J2 is now conducting. So when a small gate current is applied, Ig is equal to Ib1, that is base current of the first transistor. This current is amplified by transistor Q1. Current gain of Q1 is say alpha. So collector current of the first transistor collector current of the first transistor, let's say IC1 is equal to alpha 1 into IB1, that means base current multiplied by the current amplification factor alpha. And this collector current of Q1 acts as base current of Q2. I've told you, I've shown you the two transistor diagram. Collector of the first acts as a base current for the second. Collector of the second acts as a base current for the first. So collector current of the first now will be amplified and it will be given to the base of the second transistor. Okay, so the collector current of Q2 will be, of course, in that case, the second transistor, that is IC2. So IC2 is equal to alpha 2 multiplied by IB2. Alpha 2 is the current amplification factor and IB2 is the base current of your second transistor, right? So, and this acts as an input for base of transistor 1. So because of the regenerative action, large amount of current starts flowing through the SCR. Okay, and this is the state when we say that SCR has been fired or it has been switched on. Okay, so this operation is better understood by by looking at the two transistor circuit. Okay. Now the last point, VI characteristics of SCR. This is as shown here. This is the VI characteristics of SCR. When gate is open, that is Ig is equal to 0, anode to cathode voltage, that is we specified as VAK of SCR, is slowly increased from 0. Initially very small anode current is obtained due to minority charge carrier. When gate is open, SCR can be turned on at a high anode to cathode voltage. This voltage, as I have specified previously, this voltage is called as forward breaker voltage. Now the anode current suddenly increases and the VAK decreases. Okay, VAK decreases. This indicates negative resistance characteristics. Okay, this is what we can see over here. When a small gate current Ig is applied, SCR can be turned on earlier. As the gate current is increases, SCR fires at lower value of VAK. For a large value of gate current, the characteristics of SCR is similar to that of PN junction, right? This is the characteristics curve of PN junction. So high value of Ig current, it will act as a normal PN junction diode. All the three junctions is SCR gets forward bias in that case. Okay, once SCR is fired, that is turned on, the current through the SCR must be limited by connecting a series resistor. The minimum anode current required to keep SCR in on state is called as holding current. Please listen to these words, it will be very important. This is the holding current, and corresponding anode to cathode voltage is called as holding voltage, which is specified by VH. The minimum value of gate current at which SCR is turned on is called as firing current. The maximum anode current that can be passed through SCR without causing any destruction is called as forward current rating. Okay, so this diagram shows you the forward bias and reverse bias characteristics of SCR. Okay, so basic application of SCR will be to speed control of speed of motor, theater light control. It can be used as a controlled rectifier, and it can be used to protect the load from high voltage. So basically it will be used as a switching device to switch high power electrical circuit, high AC power electrical circuit. So this is again a very important type of thyristor. I hope you have understood. If you have any problem, you can ask me at the end of the class.